With the Trump administration looking to roll back the rules on 401k investment in private equity firms, it should be good to take a look at what private equity is and what they do. If you've ever had the joy of working for a company owned by a private equity firm, you probably already despise them with a passion, because in the 1980s, I mean, everybody remembers the movie Pretty Woman, right? Richard Gere, everything else. But do you remember what he did in that movie? What his job was? All right. He bought companies, he broke them up, and sold them off for profit.
And you don't make anything,
No.
and you don't build anything.
No.
So what do you do with the companies once you buy them?
I sell them.
Here, let me do that. You sell them.
Well, I don't sell the whole company. I break it up into pieces, and then I sell that off. It's worth more than the whole.
So it's sort of like stealing cars and selling them for the parts, right?
Well, fast forward to our current time, starting, 10, 15 years ago, 18 years ago. I mean, private equity firms have been around for a while, and the most famous one is BlackRock. But what do they do exactly? Well, they buy a company, they immediately try to increase its value as fast as possible so that they can turn around and sell it or cash out. There are various options they have, but the primary thing you have to understand is that they're buying a company in order to, through their management, rapidly increase the value, because they're the experts, they're the masters of the universe, and they know all there is to know about business and manufacturing and everything else. So they try to increase the value of the company as rapidly as possible, either by paying down debt, increasing sales, streamlining operations, various things that they do in order to increase the value of the company. Usually when they buy a company, it's usually a small, mid manufacturing company, but particularly in manufacturing. I mean, I'm sure they buy other companies and everything else. I'm just familiar with the manufacturing end. Ever since the Great Recession, with dirt low interest rates and everything else, they had a field day, sort of like venture capitalists. Tech firms don't have to make any type of cash. It's the Amazon model. You pump everything into growth and into growth and into growth and into growth and into growth, and who cares about making a profit or even making a good product? That's also roughly the PE model. It's rapid growth, rapid value creation, and then flip it. Very similar to how Richard Gere in Pretty Woman would buy companies, ditch the parts that weren't working, package up the good parts, and sell the pieces off. So this is all based on the value of greed is good. And there are good private equity firms out there. There are private equity firms that have manufacturing experts, they have operations experts that can come in, streamline operations, streamline manufacturing, fix things that weren't being run efficiently in the company, and create a solid company. Then there are the other ones. Most of them are the other ones. And that is, for many years now, the easiest way for them to increase value of a company has been to offshore production. That means massive layoffs, shutting down factories, laying people off. And that's the other side, lay people off. All right. If they come in, they can immediately do an evaluation of the operations, how the company operates, how the company functions, and figure out that they could make the employees, or they could get rid of X number of employees, rapidly decrease the overhead costs. And the only consequence is that people who are now scared for their jobs have to work, a bunch of duties get added to them that they might not be trained for, they might not have been hired in for, but they do them regardless, because why? See the first part, they're scared for their jobs. So that results in employee dissatisfaction, burnout, mount up, because you have people that are doing jobs that they weren't trained for, or that they were even hired in for, that they even have experience in. But that's okay for the private equity firm, because they're looking at like a 2 or 3 year exit. They want to come in, again, rapidly increase the value, flip it, and ditch it. So what do they care if some employees are burned out after year 2 or year 3 of doing jobs that they were never trained in or wanted to do in the first place? Also, offshoring manufacturing. that can rapidly increase the value of a company because it's generally, in the past, it's been much cheaper to do it overseas than pay workers to work harder, incentivize them to do a better product, or streamline manufacturing in the United States. Because again, very few of these private equity firms have manufacturing experts. They have offshoring experts, or they use consultants to offshore the manufacturing. So after many years of this type of cycle, is it any wonder that U.S. manufacturing has been offshored? There are tax incentives to offshore. You can rapidly increase the value. The private equity firm can flip it, and they've created massive value. It's a turnkey operation. Somebody just has to come in and buy it, and you've turned a manufacturing company into a warehouse, a buy-sell organization. They buy the products overseas, and they have a sales force that sells it, and that's it. So now, that being said, why on earth would we want these firms in our 401ks? Their whole value proposition is to get in, gut it, offshore it, and then sell it. I'm sure that creates value in some type of environment where debt is very cheap. And I will say this about the Trump administration: the tariffs make the offshoring for these private equity firms very difficult. It makes it very difficult for them to increase value by offshoring manufacturing. So now they're stuck with manufacturing, and they probably don't have any manufacturing experts. Nobody knows how to manufacture in the United States. They have no experts in plant management, warehousing management. They have data analytics, and they have accountants, and they have finance. That's generally how they're structured. So how are they on earth going to run a manufacturing company? Well, they rely on the existing employees, but those existing employees are likely gone, particularly for mature private equity firm-owned portfolio companies, because they've already done the offshoring. They've already gotten rid of all the US-based engineering, manufacturing experts and everything else. So what are they to do? Well, they limp along. They hope things will change. But that is why we do not want them in our 401ks. They're volatile. They're volatile, and they're not a sound investment. That's just my opinion. I mean, I've worked for one, and kind of everything I said gets borne out. You have people in the company that they bought that know manufacturing, but the private equity firms are fatally allergic to capital expenditure. They don't want to do it. It's an expense. It decreases short-term value and loads up the debt, which they're trying to pay off so that they can exit at a 2.5 or 3x multiplier. So why would they do it? They don't want to do it. Capital expenditure. So there's no incentive for them to automate, to renovate, to improve. Again, greed is good. So that being said, there is one part of the big, beautiful bill that is actually really good. They can take the depreciation 100% upfront on any type of plant automation or plant improvements. But now see point number 2. Depreciation is great, but you have a cap on the amount of that you can depreciate. So again, private equity firms are fatally allergic to capital expenditure, which is automation and plant improvements. So while it's a great thing, and if there were companies, if there were some significant pool out there of manufacturing companies in the United States that were not owned by private equity, this would be fantastic. This is a great thing in that big, beautiful bill. One of the few bright spots, one of the very, very few bright spots. But again, it doesn't advantage private equity that much because they don't want to do the capital expenditure. It makes them have to stay in the company longer rather than exit, which is what they want to do. They want to exit the company. They want to exit the company at a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever X multiplier it is on their initial investment. That's how they make money. That's how they pay their investors. If you've watched this far, please hit like and subscribe, drop in the comments. And yeah, I just think it's a very bad idea to open up private equity firms for 401k investment because most people don't have that much of a say-so in what their 401k invests in. They really don't. I mean, there are some 401ks that allow you to trade within it in a limited fashion. But for the most part, there's fund managers that decide what it gets invested in. So you might invest in a private equity firm that is just not very good. And since the interest rates have increased, their value proposition, a lot of them are stuck. And this just it absolutely reeks of a bailout of private equity. That's what this 401k thing looks like to me. If you disagree, please drop in the comments. It's just my opinion. If anybody's worked with a private equity firm before, you probably, it's one of those things. If you know, you know. Have a good night. Bye.